In life, it is necessary to own up to something when you're wrong. Not that long ago, I made the MGTOW video, and I had some strong opinions, but since then, I've done a little more research into the movement, and I've changed my opinion on it. At its core, MGTOW can be summed up by saying a man chooses their own path in life, rather than having someone else choose it for them. So by definition, if this describes you, then you are technically MGTOW. And that means I am too. Setting aside all of the other drama, all of the other extremism, it simply comes down to being a guy that lives life the way he wants to, or more importantly, the way you want to. So there it is. MGTOW actually isn't all that bad. But I still do have a problem with what I consider to be end phase MGTOW, which I consider to be the male equivalent of your typical cat lady feminist type. Someone who has basically given up. That's it. But that's not what this video is going to be about. I will cover that in a future video. But for now, I wanted to merge into something a little different. I've decided that I'm going to share a little more of myself with you, the viewer, and hopefully this story or this experience will help someone. So here it goes. After high school, any plans that I had basically fell through. So to sum it up, I didn't have a plan. So for about 5 years, I stagnated. But around the time I turned 23, I decided to continue my education, and I went to college. Might not seem like much to you, but for me, that was one hell of an adjustment. Especially when you consider what I was used to. And that in itself is a story. But to stay on track, I slowly got back into education mode. And then I full-on left my hometown and jumped into university life. Not knowing anyone, living in a dorm, and basically starting over. And this is college we're talking about, so all kinds of crazy, fun stuff happened. But eventually, I met this girl. This wasn't the only girl I was involved with in college, but this would have been about 2 years in to my time on campus. But regardless, I met someone and we really hit it off, and things started out very happy. We were doing everything together. We were hanging out almost every day. Either she was in my room or I would walk up to her dorm. I got to know her friends. She got to know mine. Things were great. And you guys out there listening right now, you probably know exactly how this goes. The honeymoon phase. Nothing can go wrong. But as time went on, things did start to go wrong. I started to notice some things. I started to notice certain personality traits and just subtle signs that I'd be able to pick up on now, but because of who I was back then, I was completely blind to it. And before I continue, there's something else I have to point out. Before I went to college, I never thought about politics at all. The only thing involving politics that I ever devoted any energy to was the Second Amendment. I come from a very backwoods area. Hunting and self-defense are a big part of that culture. But anything outside of that, I never really gave any thought to. And up until this point in my life, I had no idea what feminism was. But I learned. Oh, did I learn. So, the more we got to know each other, the more we revealed about ourselves. things that you keep locked away deep inside of you. You know, the real you. You can only hide certain things for so long. You know, you can only pretend to be someone else for a period of time, and then you slip up. Maybe you're not even purposely trying to hide these things, but the real you is going to emerge at some point. One of the first issues we had was her having a problem with my friends saying certain things. This girl identified as being bisexual, which at the time I really didn't care. But where I come from and the people I hang out with have a tendency to use some homophobic terminology, especially when picking on each other. You guys probably know what I mean. And she didn't like that. And she, like many other social justice types, wanted to start policing language. And like I said, this was my first time experiencing this. I didn't know any better. So I asked the guys to tone it down a little bit. They weren't too happy about it. I didn't know any better at the time. So, you know, it is what it is. So there was that. And then other things started to happen. I think this was around the time that the transsexual movement was really starting to take off, and it was being promoted a little more. So, you know, I had to go down this road of gender being neutral, and a child knows what their gender is as young as 5 years old, and they can choose their gender, you know, and that's not up to the parents. Prior to this, you know, we had the marriage talk and what an ideal life would be. Then came the topic of having children. She wanted 5 of them because she comes from a large family. I mean, I had my opinions of that, but we did butt heads on more than one occasion. She thought it was okay for boys to play with girls' toys, which I really don't care about that, but I was not about to be okay with trying to nudge my little boy into being a little girl and kind of promoting the idea that that's okay, and it upset her. So that would have been a major problem in the future. Sitting here now, I don't see that being a happy home. I don't see that being a very healthy relationship, nor would I see it being a very functional home life, especially for children. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. So much more happened. I mean, you're talking, as time went on, the social justice progressed, and, you know, you're talking about white apology, and you cannot be racist towards white people, and just basically pick up the social justice handbook and just scroll through it. That's what it was like. But my dumbass still proposed to her because, as messed up as this is, she basically put out a deadline that she wanted to get married by, or I guess the time that she expected to be proposed to. And also, I'm pretty sure she expected to start having children at 25 years old. So she put a time frame on this relationship. And then on top of everything, she was trying to change who I was, how I acted, even down to what clothing I wore, how I grew in my beard, and my hairstyle. And unfortunately, this was around the time that the man bun was taking off, and I was just another casualty of that. But, me being me, I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted out of that relationship. I chucked that engagement ring right in the river, because it wasn't worth a damn at the pawn shop, and I moved on. And this is where things get dark. I can laugh now, and I can be all cocky about how things ended or what happened during the relationship, but if I'm going to be real with you, my whole life turned upside down because I thought I had everything figured out this time around. I wasn't doing shit with my life after high school, so I went back to college. I thought I was turning everything around. I was finally going to do something with my life, and then this happened. And ironically, at the pinnacle of this breakup, This would have been around 2016, which was when Trump was first running for office, so politics were just boiling over, especially on this campus. Well, maybe not as bad as other campuses, but still, it was pretty bad. College culture. It was my senior year of college, and this would have been during summer break, so things between me and her ended. There was a little bit of drama, still, as always. We both were acting a little immature. She eventually got out of the apartment. It was just me and my friend, and we were gonna enjoy our last year of college. But like I said, for a period of time, there were many nights where I laid awake. My chest hurt because my heart was pounding so hard, because, I mean, you can call it what you want, depression, just sadness, loneliness, feeling lost. And before I forget, before I go any further about how, things turned around and whatnot, during this period of dark time, before my ex-fiancé moved out, we agreed to some terms, because we still lived together for a little bit. There was an agreement that neither of us would bring in a new significant other, meaning no new boyfriend or no new girlfriend would step foot into that apartment as long as we were still both living there. And we both agreed to it and thought that was fair, and just like, yes, that's a great idea. But didn't take long for her to start getting on Tinder and looking up new guys. Then the question was dropped. She asked me if we were still going to hold true to that agreement because she wanted to have another guy over. I immediately shut it down. I made it very clear as long as I was in that apartment, he was not going to get through that doorway. And to just think about that, could you imagine that? Laying in bed at night, having another guy over. And more than likely, they'd fuck. And having to lay there and listening to that. And this is the part of the story, this theoretical situation, that gets real. And I hope that how I felt at that time, or the mental state I would have been in, can be a lesson for anyone listening to this. Okay, I own guns. I sleep with one beside me at night. If we consider the state of mind that I would have been in at that time, if I would have had to lay awake at night, listening to some other dude screw my very recent ex-significant other, I honestly cannot say that I wouldn't have grabbed my gun and done something really stupid. I mean, best case scenario, I wouldn't have grabbed my gun. I would have just went over and kicked the door in and started fighting. Maybe got some assault charges or whatever. When you increase the level of violence by such a degree, I mean, your life is going to be changed. And sitting here now, that would have been such a stupid thing for me to do. She wasn't worth it. And I'm glad that things turned out the way they did. But looking back, it's kind of scary to think about how things could have went. And these kind of things really happen. It's comforting to think that I didn't go down that road. But, like I said, she eventually got out of there. It was just me and my friend, going out to parties every week, going down to the local club for quarter night, and I eventually met my current girlfriend. And, whenever you compare this relationship to the previous one, there are so many differences. I mean, even right out of the gate, we talked about some very personal things, including politics. We ripped that Band-Aid off right away. And we had so much more in common. But the thing above all else, and maybe this is hard to describe or hard to explain for people who have never experienced it, or I guess who have never really thought about it this deeply, we had the spark. I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat things and be like, oh, she's my soulmate and we were meant to find each other. No. There were so many random events that led up to us meeting, but we just so happened to meet each other at the right time. I mean, even that in itself is crazy to think about. I mean, just making a few small decisions may have led us to not meet. You know, it's hard to tell where either of us would be right now. But just that one fateful night at the frat party is what started things. And like I said, there was a spark. It's hard to explain, but it happened. And it felt good to be able to be myself around this person and not be met with anger or them getting offended every 5 minutes. But I think it's about time to wrap this video up. I hope that me revealing a little more about myself and what I've been through can help somebody, because I know it sucks. It sucks to go through heartbreak, but it sucks even more to spend so much of your life on someone for nothing. I guess the only positive thing I can get out of all of it are the lessons that I learned. And I mean, sometimes I sit down and think about how I could have or should have done things differently, but if I did, I wouldn't be the same person I am right now, talking to you. But yeah, I think I've given enough of a sob story for right now. But no, seriously, I think that's a good place to stop for now. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my video. Please like and subscribe, and if you could, tap the little bell icon so you're notified every time I come out with new content. Also, the link to my Discord will be in the description. So in this video, I rambled on quite a bit about a past relationship. This isn't just me trying to tell you what the right thing for you to do is. This is coming from within, because this is what helped me. So, even in the most hopeless of situations, you can still find your way out of it. It's not the end of the world. Despite what you might think or what you've been told, you may actually have more power over a situation than what you originally thought you did. And when you finally discover this, it can make a world of difference. Alright, that's all I've got. Until you hear from me again, have a good one.